We all seek connection, don't we? It's this fundamental, often unspoken need we have for a sense of belonging. It just seems baked into us. But have you ever really stopped to think about how that actually works? How it's, well, engineered? How do millions, literally millions of strangers end up feeling like they belong to the same community, sharing an identity, even feelings, without ever meeting? Today we're doing a deep dive into a really ambitious framework. It's called the River of Reality model. And this isn't just some simple diagram. It's aiming for nothing less than a whole hierarchical systems philosophy. It tries to trace this concept of flow, energy, information, connection, right, from the physical universe up to us, to human societies. It's a massive vision, kind of like a blueprint for reality itself.
Yeah, it really is ambitious. And what's truly fascinating for us today, and for you listening, is where this model really pivots, where it becomes distinctly human. It lays out this developmental progression through different levels or tiers. Starts with the physical world, level 1, science. Then it moves up through life's complexities and then gets into human civilization. And that's broken down further. Level 2, art, and level 3, religion or values. Now that jump from level 1 science to level 2 art, that's absolutely pivotal. It's the exact point where the whole system seems to shift gears from the objective, the measurable, to the, well, subjective, from just impersonal information to this deeply personal, socially powerful force. Connection. It's like that's the critical junction where our understanding of the world starts shaping who we are together. Shared facts start becoming shared feelings.
And that's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? An alchemical transmutation, turning cold facts into, well, the bedrock of identity. And the model makes this very specific, striking claim for level 2 for art. It says art studies membership, produces beauty, and generates a flow of love connection. So our mission today is to really unpack that. How does art actually do that? How does it bridge that gap between what we know and who we are together? We want to dig into these claims, test them against, established philosophy, sociology, see if this model holds water when we really look closely. Okay, let's get into it.
The foundation science is the stable canvas.
Right. So to really get art's role here in this whole system, we first need to understand what it's built on. That's level 1, science. The model argues pretty strongly that science lays the essential groundwork for everything that follows, all the sociocultural complexity. I mean, without this base layer, our cultures, values, institutions, they just couldn't exist in the same way. It's like the operating system for reality.
Okay, science is the bedrock. But is it just about, collecting data, or does the model give it a more active role, almost philosophical, shaping what comes next? What does science actually do in this model? It sounds simple, but the impact seems huge.
It is straightforward but profound, yeah.
Yeah.
The model says science studies truth, produces data, and generates a flow of information. But the crucial thing here isn't just knowing stuff. It's creating a stable and predictable shared understanding of reality.
Like the stable canvas idea. You can't paint on something that's constantly shifting.
Exactly. Science provides that firm ground. It's about agreeing on the basic rules, isn't it?
Okay.
Physics, biology, the observable facts, it gives us all a common map to navigate by.
Okay.
And this isn't just, putting things in boxes. It's a really deep philosophical stance in the model. It implies a direct causal link between agreed upon truth and social cohesion. And for you, the listener, think about the implications. A shared set of verifiable truths about the world. The model presents this as the necessary precondition for building any lasting social bonds.
Wow. Okay. So without that shared reality, community is impossible.
That's the argument. A community, in this view, just cannot be built on conflicting realities. I mean, if one group thinks the world operates one way and another thinks it's completely different, how do you build shared goals or trust or identity that sense us? It fundamentally requires a shared cognitive ground, a common understanding of how things work. This shared information flow, this agreement on what's real, is what makes everything else possible. It paves the way for shared meaning, for connection. It's the starting point.
Art as the architect of belonging, studying membership.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me. Building on that stable canvas of science, we get level 2, art. And the model's claim here that art studies membership. That sounds, well, almost like sociology, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not what I usually think of when I think art. Can you help unpack that? What does it mean for art to study belonging?
That's a great question, and it really cuts right to the heart of the model's insight here. So in this framework, art isn't just like passively reflecting groups that already exist. No, it's positioned as the primary sociocultural technology, the main tool humans use to define themselves as groups, to create boundaries, who's in, who's out, and to generate all the symbols needed for a collective identity. So when the model says art studies membership, means art is actively engaged in figuring out how social solidarity is built and maintained, especially in big societies where you can't possibly know everyone.
Ah, okay. So it's about how we go from just a collection of individuals to a unified we, a we that can actually work together.
Exactly. A we that can cooperate, share goals, maybe even make sacrifices for the group. Art is building that shared mental architecture for being a group.
Collective representations and the sacred canopy. Durkheim.
Okay, so to really understand this, you mentioned we should look at some sociology, specifically Emile Durkheim, his idea of collective representations. How does that help us here?
Right, Durkheim provides a powerful lens. He defined these collective representations as shared ideas, beliefs, values that a whole group develops together. And crucially, they aren't just the sum of individual opinions. They take on a life of their own. Think about it. They're the very fabric of social reality. They create the shared categories we think with like time, space, good, evil, even concepts like nation or class. They give everyone in a society a common mental map.
So they're like the shared software for a society's mind.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. They're the source of social solidarity. Without them, we'd just be a jumble of individuals unable to really coordinate or understand each other.
Okay, makes sense. So how does art become the engine generating these crucial representations, especially now in more secular times?
Well, in this Durkheimian view, art steps into that role. It creates the symbols, the myths, the narratives, the icons that actually express these collective realities. Think about traditional societies. Maybe religion provided those shared meanings, but today, it might be the national anthem, right?
Yeah.
Or an iconic photo, or a film that captures the national spirit, or even a protest song. Art takes these abstract social ideas and gives them concrete, emotionally charged form.
Right, right. And Durkheim also talked about how these things get forged, didn't he? Something about moments of high energy,
Yeah.
collective effervescence.
Exactly. Collective effervescence. Durkheim argued these representations are forged, or at least powerfully reinforced, in moments of intense social interaction. Originally, he pointed to religious rituals. These moments generate this highly charged emotional energy. Dynamic density, called it too. It lifts people out of their everyday lives. They feel swept up, part of something bigger. And this intense feeling gives the group symbols a kind of sacred power. It separates them from the ordinary, the profane. Think of, I don't know, the feeling at a huge political rally or the roar in a stadium that's collective effervescence. It creates a powerful we.
So for you listening, think about this. That shared, intense experience of art. Maybe a concert, thousands singing along, feeling the same rhythm, or standing silently before a war memorial, or watching a classic film together in a cinema, everyone gasping at the same moment. These could be our modern, secular versions of Durkheim's rituals, couldn't they? The artwork itself becomes the focal point. It generates that coming together. It builds solidarity by creating this shared, symbolic world that we all feel part of that feels bigger than any one of us.
Precisely. So when the River of Reality model says art studies membership, we can understand it very specifically now. Art is the discipline that actively engineers those collective representations. It's the practice of weaving individuals, their experiences, their ideas into a meaningful whole. A whole that then becomes, as Durkheim said, kind of autonomous. It has a power of its own, shaping the group. Art builds the very mental stuff of us.
Imagine communities and the narrative construction of belonging, Anderson.
Okay, so Durkheim gives us the mechanism, that intense emotional forging of we. But then there's Benedict Anderson, right? His idea of imagined communities. How does that fit in? Does it explain how this scales up from a ritual to a whole nation?
Exactly. Anderson helps us understand how these symbols and feelings get disseminated to create belonging among vast numbers of people who will never, ever meet. It's how you get from a village ceremony to national identity. Anderson's core idea was profound. He said a nation is an imagined political community. Imagined because, well, you'll never meet most of your fellow citizens, yet you still have this image in your mind of your communion, your connection. And he stressed this belonging isn't natural or ancient, it's a cultural construct, it's built. Imagined as this deep horizontal comradeship, a kind of brotherhood uniting everyone despite vast inequalities. And people feel it so strongly they'll even die for it.
And he linked this mass imagining to technology, didn't he? Specifically print.
He did. He pointed to print capitalism, especially the novel and the newspaper, as the key technology. Mass production of texts allowed millions to share the same information, the same stories, at roughly the same time. Reading the newspaper, you knew millions of others were doing the same. It created this sense of shared consciousness, a community of readers, all part of the same imagined world.
And the River of Reality model basically takes that insight and runs with it, applying it more broadly than just print, to all of art.
That's right. For you, the listener, think of it this way. Anderson showed how print did it, but the model says, look, all forms of art can do this. A shared body of literature, a national cinema, popular music, iconic paintings, monuments. These are all cultural technologies, allowing millions to imagine that comradeship. The model's claim about art-forming groups based on shared symbols, narratives, and identities, that's basically Anderson's theory, just broadened out. It's any widely shared art building and reinforcing that sense of pulse.
So the act of consuming art itself becomes a kind of mass ceremony, as Anderson called it. When you watch that big national film or hear that song, everyone knows you're aware, even subconsciously, that millions of others understand it too, feel something similar. It turns a private act into a public ritual. It reinforces that image of their communion. You feel part of something bigger, even alone on your couch.
Mm-hmm. So studying membership in this light is the active process of imagining the community into existence. You do it by creating and spreading these shared aesthetic narratives and symbols. It's how modern societies create unity, often taking over roles previously held by religion. Art isn't just reflecting society, it's actively writing its identity script.
Okay, so pulling these threads together. Durkheim's intense moments, Anderson's vast imagined maps. What does this really mean for art's function in the model?
It highlights art's absolutely crucial functional importance. It's not just decoration. It's the specific technology that solves the massive problem of social scaling. How do you create trust and shared identity, that membership, among millions of strangers who aren't related? Art is the answer, according to this model. It's how we build societies bigger than tribes. Yeah, and this makes the model's next step make sense. Placing art's flow of love connection as the precondition for the large-scale social trust needed in level 3, religion values. That's a really sophisticated claim. It's saying before a big society can agree on values or governance, it first needs a shared sense of self and identity. Art is the critical innovation that allows that. It's basically the software of large-scale social cohesion.
The enigma of beauty, from formal harmony to cognitive understanding.
Okay, membership got it. Art builds the we. But then the model says the successful establishment of these connections, this harmonious integration, produces what we perceive as beauty. Now, beauty, that word alone is a philosophical minefield, isn't it? How do we make sense of beauty emerging from this, well, almost social engineering process?
Yeah.
It seems tricky.
It is tricky. You're absolutely right. Beauty is incredibly contentious. And to figure out the model's claim, we have to navigate this big penchant in aesthetics. On one hand, you've got formalist theories. They say beauty is all about the artwork's physical properties, line, shape, color, composition, pure form. On the other hand, there are cognitivist theories. They ground beauty more in the artwork's ability to generate understanding, meaning, insight. The model's definition of beauty really hinges on which perspective fits better with its whole system of connection. It's a fork in the road.
Okay.
The formalist challenge, Clive Bell and significant form.
So that phrase, harmonious integration, at first blush, it sounds a lot like formalism, doesn't it? Like Clive Bell, early 20th century. Things are beautiful and they're just...
Well, put balanced. It does sound like it initially. Formalism argues the artwork's value is only in its formal qualities. Composition, color, line. Completely separate from what it depicts or its social context. Bell's key idea was significant form. This specific combination of lines, colors, shapes that he thought was common to all great visual art. And it uniquely stirs this special aesthetic emotion in the viewer. It was a pure response to form itself. An abstract painting could be just as beautiful, maybe more so than a realistic one, because its beauty was purely in the arrangement.
Right. So the model saying beauty comes from harmonious integration seems to echo Bell's focus on form. Looks like a neat fit. But wait, there's a catch, isn't there? For you, the listener, this is where it gets complicated.
There's a huge catch, a fundamental conflict, actually. Yeah. Bell's formalism was radically autonomous. He famously insisted, and this is a direct quote, "To appreciate a work of art, we need bring with us nothing from life. No knowledge of its ideas and affairs, no familiarity with its emotions."
Nothing from life.
Nothing. For Bell, the subject matter, what the art was about, was always irrelevant, just an excuse for the forms. Now think about that. That stance directly contradicts the entire premise of Level 2 in the River of Reality model.
Yeah, absolutely. If Bell says art is detached from life, subject matter doesn't matter. But our model says art is all about life, connection, studying membership, shared meaning. That's a head-on collision. Does this mean the model's idea of beauty just falls apart here? Because if the beauty produced by art has nothing to do with connection, then that flow of love connection seems kind of disconnected itself.
That's exactly the tension. The model defines art's whole purpose through its connection to life. Membership, relationships, shared meaning, flow of connection. A purely formalist beauty, defined by its detachment from human affairs, logically cannot be the product of a process that's so deeply social. So while form is obviously important, how art looks or sounds matters. A strictly formalist theory just doesn't work to explain beauty within this specific model. We need a different understanding of beauty, one that's tied to meaning.
The cognitive solution, Nelson Goodman and epistemic fulfillment.
Okay, so formalism is out. If that idea of detached beauty doesn't fit, where do we look? How can we understand beauty in a way that actually supports art's role in building belonging and connection? We need another angle here.
And this is where Nelson Goodman really offers a lifeline to the model. His aesthetic cognitivism provides a much more compatible solution. Goodman really challenged the whole idea of art being separate from other ways of knowing. He argued aesthetics is basically a branch of epistemology, meaning art is a way of knowing things, a way of understanding the world, just like science gives us knowledge. In his view, art isn't just for passive contemplation. Artworks are complex symbols that do cognitive work. They classify reality, they show us relationships, they offer new ways of seeing. Art helps us build the very realities we live in. It's not just pretty, it's smart.
Ah, okay. That sounds much closer to the model's description of art. Taking data, lived experience, and exploring relationships, weaving them into a meaningful whole. That sounds exactly like Goodman's idea of art's cognitive work. It's about what it shows us, what connections it reveals.
Precisely. And this alignment lets us redefine beauty in a way that fits perfectly with the model. And this is really key for you, the listener. Beauty is the cognitive and emotional satisfaction that arises when an artwork successfully functions as a symbol system, revealing a complex set of relationships in a coherent, insightful, and effectively resonant way.
Okay, unpack that a bit. Cognitive and emotional satisfaction.
Yeah, it's that aha moment. When the pieces click into place intellectually, you grasp the connections, the pattern, the meaning, and emotionally it resonates. It feels right, profound. It's the pleasure of understanding something complex and meaningful. Goodman might call it epistemic fulfillment, the joy of getting it.
So the model's harmonious integration isn't just visual harmony, it's cognitive harmony. Things don't just look good together, they make sense together, deeply.
Exactly. Think about a great novel. Its beauty isn't just the nice sentences. It's how the characters, themes, plot all weave together perfectly to reveal some truth about being human. That's cognitive harmony.
Or a powerful piece of music, how melody, rhythm, emotion all work together.
Right. Or even a national flag. Its beauty isn't just the colors and shapes. It's how elegantly it symbolizes a complex identity, a history, shared hopes. It's the meaning, beautifully condensed.
Okay, I see. That bridges the gap.
It does. This cognitivist view connects the formal and social functions. The artwork's formal properties, its composition, its structure, its sound, they aren't ends in themselves. They're the means by which the art does its cognitive work, conveys its meaning. And the aesthetic pleasure, what we call beauty, is like the signal that this cognitive and social work is succeeding. It's the reward for processing the symbol, grasping the whole, that satisfying click of understanding. So beauty isn't the final product. It's more like the essential lubricant for art's main job, forging connection through shared understanding. It makes the work of belonging feel good.
The core output, the flow of love connection.
Okay, so we've got art studying membership using cognitive beauty as its tool. Now we get to the ultimate output of level 2, generating that flow of love connection. This seems like the real payoff, where the abstract idea of membership becomes something felt, something real. The glue holding the community together, paving the way for shared values in level 3. This is the heart of it, right? Where theory becomes visceral.
Absolutely. This is the core psychosocial phenomena. And we can actually find a really powerful philosophical explanation for the mechanism of this flow in Leo Tolstoy's work, specifically his expressionist theory in his famous essay, What is Art? Tolstoy rejected defining art by beauty or pleasure. He found those too elitist, too subjective. For him, art had a profound moral purpose, uniting humanity through shared feeling.
Emotional infection and the union of humankind.
Right, Tolstoy. He saw art as communication, didn't he? But a specific kind.
A very specific kind. For Tolstoy, art is when an artist feels a genuine emotion, joy, sorrow, courage, whatever, and then intentionally evokes that same feeling in others. They transmit it using movements, lines, colors, sounds, or forms expressed in words. And the measure of success, its infectiousness. How well does it make the audience feel the exact same emotion the artist felt? If it succeeds, it creates a spiritual union between artist and audience and among the audience members themselves.
Emotional infection. That's a strong term.
It is, but it provides a really precise and potent explanation for the model's flow of love connection. It's not just a metaphor, it's a literal transmission of feeling that breaks down individual isolation, forging this union among men, as he put it. And the model using love in that broad sense, belonging, camaraderie, shared meaning, fits perfectly with Tolstoy. It's about that deep, shared, affective state, that fellow feeling, which is so powerful for building bonds.
So through art, for you listening, we can literally feel another person's joy or sorrow or courage as if it's our own, fostering empathy.
Exactly. That's the core idea. You feel sad with the character, proud with the historical figure, angry at the injustice in the song because the artist successfully infected you with that feeling. And Tolstoy really emphasized the artist's sincerity. He thought that was crucial for real infection, which reinforces the idea that this flow of connection isn't superficial. It's about sharing authentic human experience. That's what gives it the power to bind societies. It has to feel real.
Synthesizing the flow.
Yeah.
From form to feeling to fraternity.
Okay, so if we pull all these pieces together now, Goodman's cognitive insight, Bell's form repurpose, Tolstoy's emotional infection, Anderson's scaling, Durkheim's collective representations. How does this flow actually happen? Can we trace the steps?
Yes, let's trace that path, because the full power of level 2 really emerges when you see it as this coherent causal chain. It's a multi-stage process, scaling from the individual right up to the collective.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1 is the cognitive act, like Goodman described. The artist explores relationships, organizes elements, data, experience, ideas into a meaningful structure, a coherent symbolic system, making sense of things.
Step 2, the form matters.
Right. That structure is made compelling through its aesthetic qualities, the harmonious integration, the significant form. But now we see it not as the goal, but as the means. The beauty of the form serves the beauty of the meaning. It draws us in, makes the complex ideas feel right, makes them pleasurable to grasp. It's the hook.
Got it. Step 3, Tolstoy.
Step 3, that compelling, meaningful structure becomes the vessel for the artist's sincere feeling. And that feeling infects you, the individual audience member. That moment of empathy, that spiritual union Tolstoy talked about, you feel it.
Okay, individual infection. How does it become a flow, Anderson?
Step 4, amplification and scaling. This individual emotional infection gets multiplied across the population through the spread of cultural artifacts, the books, the films, the songs, the images. It becomes a shared experience for thousands, millions.
And crucially, we know others are sharing it.
Step 5, shared awareness, exactly like Anderson described. You're not just infected with the feeling, you're aware that countless unseen others are likely feeling it too. And this awareness transforms the individual feeling into a collective one. It's not just, I feel what the artist felt. It becomes, I feel what we feel. And that is the birth of Anderson's deep horizontal comradeship. That felt sense of belonging.
Wow. And that leads back to Durkheim.
Step 6, solidification. This scaled-up, shared emotional experience reinforces those collective representations Durkheim talked about. Shared feelings solidify shared ideas, shared identity, and the result is the emergent phenomenon the model calls the flow of love connection, a strong sense of membership built on shared feelings as much as shared ideas, creating cohesive groups bound by this powerful architecture of belonging that art constructs. It's the emotional infrastructure.
Nuance and the bigger picture, in-groups and out-groups.
Okay, so taking stock. This deep dive suggests the River of Reality model's Level 2 Art Studies membership produces beauty, cognitively understood, generates love connection, is actually remarkably coherent. It aligns incredibly well with some major streams of 20th century thought. It seems to hold up.
It really does. The study's membership claim finds strong support in Durkheim and Anderson. Art as the engine of collective identity. The flow of love connection gets a powerful mechanism from Tolstoy's emotional infection. And the trickiest part, beauty, is resolved quite elegantly by shifting from pure formalism to Goodman's cognitivism, linking beauty to understanding and resonance. It hangs together surprisingly well.
But there's always a but, isn't there? A complete assessment needs to acknowledge nuance. The model frames love connection very positively, but there's a flip side, right? A shadow.
Absolutely. And this is a vital point for you, the listener, to consider. The very theories that best support the model, Durkheim, Anderson especially, they reveal an unavoidable consequence. Creating an in-group membership simultaneously necessarily creates an out-group. It has to.
How so?
Well, Anderson's imagined community is explicitly limited. It has boundaries. Beyond them lie other nations, other groups. Durkheim's sacred only makes sense in contrast to the profane, the ordinary, the outside. So this inherent dualism means that while art powerfully unites us, it also, by definition, delineates them. Those who aren't part of the circle don't share the symbols, the feelings.
Like nationalistic art, uniting a country but maybe fostering suspicion of others?
Precisely. Art's power to connect is also, inherently, its power to divide. They seem to be two sides of the same coin.
So maybe we need to refine the model slightly. Think of that flow of love connection not just as a positive force, but as a vector. It has direction and boundaries.
That's a very good way to put it. A vector. It creates the powerful in-group solidarity needed for level 3 values and trust. It bonds us. But at the same time, it creates the very social divisions, the identity lines that often fuel conflict. Us versus them. Presumably, those conflicts and dynamics are meant to be managed by higher levels in the River of Reality model. Maybe level 5, governance, tries to bring order to the identities forged by level 2 art. It highlights that this architecture of belonging is powerful but needs careful handling.
Okay, so final assessment, level 2 art.
In the final assessment, level 2 stands as a philosophically robust, really insightful, and coherent framework. Its great strength is identifying art not as some optional luxury or just making pretty things, but as an indispensable functional component in building civilization. It truly is that crucial bridge. Connecting the stable canvas of objective fact from science level 1 to the complex architecture of shared values and trust in level 3 religion ethics, art performs that alchemy.
So thinking about the big picture, that flow of love connection from art, it sounds like one of the most critical currents in the whole River of Reality.
I think it has to be. Because it's the current that transforms just a collection of individuals who might otherwise be strangers into a community capable of having a shared future. Yeah. It lifts us from just coexisting to actually belonging together. It makes collective action possible.
It really paints art as fundamental, doesn't it? Not just nice to have, but absolutely core to how we build society on any large scale. It's profound.
It is profound. And it leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? If art is truly the software of large-scale social cohesion, and if that flow of connection is inherently a vector, defining in-groups and out-groups, what responsibility does that place on us? On creators, on consumers of art? Should we be more conscious of the boundaries we draw, even as we seek connection? And how might understanding art's foundational role maybe shift our priorities? How we support it, engage with it, maybe try to harness its power for more inclusive belonging rather than division?
A powerful thought to consider after this deep dive into the architecture of belonging.